Good morning, everyone. Welcome to week number 2 in Biology 120. You made it through your first week. You made an initial discussion board posting introducing yourself so that we get to know you a little bit better. And you also talked about the scientific method, why it's used in the sciences, and how you've used it in your everyday life. And you also should have responded to 2 of your classmates, sharing with them what you have in common, and also some tips and resources that help to make you successful in college. All right, so what do we have going on this week? This week is all about some chemistry of organisms. Yes, we have to cover a little bit of chemistry so that we're all on the same page when we talk about these molecules throughout the rest of the term. Chapter 2 in your textbook is all about inorganic molecules like water and carbon, which is actually an element. So skim through that chapter. Concentrate on water because water is extremely important in organisms. The main purpose of water in cells, and every cell has to have water in it, is that it absorbs the heat from all the biochemistry that's happening inside that cell. So as each chemical reaction happens, a little bit of heat is given off, and there's a tremendous amount of chemistry going on inside organisms. So water is there to absorb that heat so that the cell basically doesn't burn up. So that's what makes water so important to organisms. So be sure and read through that section. And then also take a look at chapter 3, which is about organic molecules. And there are 4 groups of organic molecules. The carbohydrates, like starches and sugars and those sorts of things. Okay, carbohydrates, you know them, you've heard about them in your diet. Lipids, these are the fats, oils, and waxes. And the main property of lipids that is so important is that they are hydrophobic. They repel water, and so they separate from water. And in fact, a whole group of these lipids called phospholipids make up cell membranes, which separates the aqueous solution, water solution inside cells, from the aqueous environment. And the reason that they can do this is because they are repelled by water. Then we have proteins. Proteins are so important because most of the proteins in cells are enzymes, and enzymes run the biochemistry, all the chemical reactions that are happening inside cells. So they're tremendously important. They're also proteins that are structural, etc. They have other jobs too, but most of the proteins made by cells are enzymes. And then we have the nucleic acids. Nucleic acids are important because they carry genetic information like DNA, like RNA. Where have you heard of this lately? Messenger RNA is what is in the COVID vaccinations that you're getting, that I've already gotten right now. So we'll talk more about these during the term. Nucleic acids are also important because they have some of the most important energy molecules in this particular group, like ATP, adenosine triphosphate, which contains energy that's released to enzymes to do the work that all the cells need done. All right, also read the Module 2 overview and watch the 2 videos and read the 3rd article, I believe it is. So be sure and do that. Then you have some discussion board postings, and I'm going to make some emphasis on some ideas here. So your initial posting is always due by Thursday. Don't forget that. It's always due by Thursday. You're going to talk about the importance of the macromolecules that I just described, the carbohydrates, lipids, proteins, and nucleic acids in cells. So why are these so important inside cells? And why is water so important inside cells? Okay, not just in general. Why are carbohydrates important? Because we have to have them in our diets. No, that's not what the question was. Why are they important in cells? And also you're going to come up with a factor X. So the discussion asks you to consider this equation. Food plus water plus X equals life. And you're going to try to figure out what you think factor X must be. And there is no right answer to this. This can be a lot of different things. Now, there can be some wrong answers, but there are many correct answers for this one. So you figure out what you consider X to be, and then you're going to have to defend that in your writing. Now, this is all of life, okay? This does not mean human life. Every time we're talking about life in this particular chapter, and really throughout the whole course, we're talking about all of life. So all the way from bacteria, fungi like a mushroom, to a worm, to a red oak tree, to a human being, okay? All of life. So remember that. And then you're going to write 2 responses to fellow students, and you're going to discuss the necessity of nucleic acids in our diets, and why or why not are they not on food labels. Now, the importance of this and the way that you can figure out the answer to this, why or why not these are on food labels. Look at the structure of nucleotides. So a nucleotide is the smallest subunit of a nucleic acid. And if you look at that, you can figure out the answer. All right, and that is in chapter 3. Then you're going to write a journal entry on the properties of carbon and why carbon is so important. And I will tell you right now, carbon is so extremely important because it forms 4 bonds with other atoms or molecules. Okay, 4. And that means that having a backbone of carbon can make a very strong, dimensional, very complex molecule, because it can form 4 bonds with other atoms or molecules. So you can make huge molecules based on carbon, and they can have many different shapes and forms, and so that's why life is carbon-based. And if you're a Star Trek fan like I was when I was growing up, you know what they say, you're looking for carbon-based life forms, right? Could there be another element that life is based on? Yes, but it has to have this ability to make very complex molecules. You're also going to talk about the link between fossil fuels and carbon dioxide, the release of excessive carbon dioxide into the atmosphere, and the phenomenon of global warming and climate change. So you're going to be discussing all of this in your journal entry. Make sure that you watch the Reliable Sources video, because this will help you with your final project. There's no assignment that goes along with this, but it is important to watch that video. And then you need to be deciding in week 2 what your final project is going to be on. So you have a final project that will be due in week number 7. You will have 3 parts to this to turn in before that week 7. I think the third one is due in week 5. Okay, these are called milestones. So you have milestone 1, milestone 2, milestone 3, and these are all parts of the final project. And then you will put them all together in slide form or format to produce your final project on a topic. Okay, I have listed here the topics that you have that are available to you. If you look at the final project guidelines and rubric, you will see these listed. Now I want you to realize that these are really like problems, situations, issues in the world having to do with biology. So it's not just a topic like, I don't know, ecology, okay? It's not just a big overarching study like ecology. It's got to be more specific. It's got to have a problem or an issue that goes along with it. So let me just start going through these quickly to give you an idea of what I'm talking about. So population ecology. If I were looking at that and I wanted to do a final project on that, I might look at the population ecology of deer in South Carolina, because I live in South Carolina, and how that is studied and how it is maintained properly and who's in charge of it and what are the laws surrounding it and all those sorts of issues, okay? Air pollution. Now, you know that that's a problem. So where is it mainly located? Usually in cities, but does it affect the whole world? Absolutely. Has it changed lately? It has totally changed. In 2020, when we had COVID and everything was on lockdown, there was much less air pollution than there was before and that we're experiencing again now. So air pollution in a particular place, sure, you decide, but not in a tiny location, like a tiny rural town. Now, if you want to compare air pollution in rural towns to cities, that would be a good final project. Water pollution, it's everywhere. There's so many different types of water pollution. Everything from microplastics, you've heard of these tiny little beads that are used in lots of different applications now, to the breakdown of plastics in a place like the ocean, where all these little pieces of plastic are released. And I mean, that's just one example of a type of water pollution, but there's so many more. Lead in water, arsenic, mercury. We've got so many types of water pollution in South Carolina that's not even funny. But maybe in your region, maybe you want to take Flint, Michigan as an example. Maybe you want to do the ocean. See, so you have to think about what you're interested in and how one of these topics might interest you and how you can apply it to something that you know or something that you are interested in. The energy crisis and alternative sources of energy. Why is there an energy crisis? Why should we stop using fossil fuels? What are alternative sources of energy? Eutrophication is a natural aging out process of bodies of water, but it can be hurried along by human processes. Algal blooms are a problem of eutrophication, and some of you have experience with the algal blooms. You may live along the coast somewhere where you've had an algal bloom. So this is an example of eutrophication, the human population and how fast it's growing, which is absolutely out of control, really. And what's going to happen if it continues at this particular rate? Genetic modification. Well, what are the problems with this? For one thing, nobody around the world is actually authorized to do genetic modification on human embryos. But, of course, you know it has happened. But are you interested in genetic modification of crop plants? Are you interested in genetic modification of disease vectors like mosquitoes? Are you interested in genetic modification of human beings? There are issues that have to do with this that you could cover. Deforestation, of course, is a tremendously important topic now, especially of the Amazonian rainforest. It is just being torn down at record rates right now, especially in Brazil, because the president of that country, I guess he's the president, is encouraging this process. So basically the Amazonian rainforest is going away. Terribly big problem for so many reasons in the world. And so you're going to have to come up with some solutions to this too. If he is suggesting that farmers tear down and burn, harvest the wood, burn the remaining stumps and that sort of thing, what are some solutions to this? You're going to have to come up with some. Biodiversity and maintaining biodiversity in different ecosystems is tremendously important. Endangered species can be a part of this, or it can be a separate part. You can take endangered species of one particular species. So for example, in 2012, I saw my first bald eagle in South Carolina. And oh my goodness, I was so excited, you cannot even believe it. I was watching the dolphins strand feeding, which I'll explain later on, and I'll show you some pictures of that. That's where the dolphins herd fish up onto the shore and actually come up out of the water onto the shore to grab fish, and I was by myself. There was no one else out on the beach anywhere, and I was taking pictures, and all of a sudden a bald eagle comes out of the sky and lands on the beach on the shore across from me, but I'm right across from it. And I had never seen a bald eagle before. And like I said, I was extremely excited. I was even hyperventilating. I was so excited. And I got in water up to my knees to get as close to that other shore as I possibly could to take pictures. And I took pictures of that eagle scooping up some of those fish that the dolphin were running up onto the shore. So, you know, here I am in my, in my 50s then, and I see a bald eagle for the first time in my life in South Carolina. Why? Because bald eagles are an endangered species, but they are making a comeback like crazy. It is amazing. I have seen so many since then. I mean, not hundreds, but I have seen a lot since then. So if you're interested in an endangered species, choose one. Do a whole project on that. Global warming, climate change, of course, that's a tremendously important issue today, which we will have to address. If we don't, all the coastlines in the world will be flooded, and that, if you look at a map of the human population, that's where most people live, near a coastline. Waste management. How do we manage our waste? Where does your garbage go? Where does your recycling go? Maybe you should find out. It's a really important issue today. If you don't like any of these topics, you may choose something else that you're interested in. But, you have to run this by me, and you have to do it in week number 2, because week number 3, you have an assignment due. You have your first milestone due of your final project. So you have to email me this week and get the okay from me to do your own specific topic. Okay, because lately I've gotten some wild ones that didn't make any sense whatsoever to me. Remember that it's an issue, a problem, or a topic that is important right now. So think about it that way. What is it, especially for all of you environmental science majors, what is something that you're really interested in? Is it repopulation of wolves in Yellowstone National Park? You know, what is it? Acid rain, light pollution. I wrote that down so I would remind myself to say that. Light pollution is not on this list, but it is an important problem. When you look at the earth at night, how much of it is lit up? It is amazing. Or have you ever flown over a city at nighttime and seen how many lights are on? How many parking lots are lit up? How many streets are lit up? Oh goodness, how many businesses are lit up? How many houses are lit up? Light pollution. What does that affect? That affects animals, that affects plants, that affects your sleep pattern. So even light pollution. So anyway, I've given you lots of ideas. And if you want to do something different and you're not sure about it, let me know. If you're really passionate about a topic but it's not on here, let me know. Email me. And I like to give you a tip here and there. My tip of the week this week is to jot down a list of things to answer for each assignment. Oh my goodness. I love a Post-it note. So take a Post-it note, jot down on a piece of paper, the back of an old envelope that's going to get thrown in the recycling anyway. Jot down a list of things to answer for each assignment so that you don't forget to answer something. If you do, I have to take off from your grade for that. So please, please, please make sure that you answer everything. If you want to also include the questions from the assignment, feel free to do that. I love that. So, but you don't have to. If you want to, you surely can, but make sure you jot down a list of what to answer so that you make sure you do everything. Here's the state bird of South Carolina, a Carolina wren. Isn't it so cute? It was eating a whole bunch of berries that had fallen off that bush right above it, and I bet it got a bellyache because it was eating a whole bunch of them. And if you need me this week, all you need to do is email me, m.sigmon@snhu.edu. I will answer you as quickly as I possibly can. And I hope you have a wonderful week this week.